Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'll be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So I've been doing this for many years now. It's always fun to, once we get to the halfway point of the year, to really kind of reflect on the reading I've done so far. So I can't believe, I'm filming this towards the end of July, and I can't believe how fast this year has gone by, despite how many obstacles I've had this year. So yeah, when I was looking back on some of the books that I read this year, there was definitely a lot of standouts. So without further ado, let's get started. Question 1 is the best book you've read so far in 2026. This one would easily have to be A Resistance of Witches, and this one I read in January, and it still has been one of the top books that I've read this year, if not the top book. I was essentially really blown away by this, but I was pleasantly surprised because the premise felt totally up my alley, and it ended up being a slam dunk. But basically the premise of this is that it takes place in the 1940s, where witches in the UK have very much been separated from humans and the government. But when the headmistress of the very prestigious Witches Academy offers up her services to Churchill to help with the war effort, our main character is kind of the prodigy, and so she is helping with the war effort. She has the ability to kind of touch an object or touch something related to an object and kind of see where it is, and so it kind of goes off from there. They're trying to compete against the Nazis, who also have some witch power to find this long forgotten book of dark magic, and so they obviously want to kind of beat the Nazis before it gets to that point. But I really love this. Not only was it a perfect blend of historical fiction and fantasy, which are some of my favorite genres overall, but this one, it was just really well executed. I loved the characters, the growth of the characters, the stakes were high. I was just so emotionally invested in this, and I thought the pacing was well done. It was my first five-star read of the year, and it's definitely still one of my favorites so far. So I've definitely really loved this, and I think if you really love historical fiction and fantasy, I think this is the perfect book for you. And this is a debut author, this is her debut book too, so I'm excited to see what she has in store kind of going forward. Question 2 is the best sequel you've read so far in 2026. This one would have to be The Hallmark Man by Robert Galbraith. This is the newest installment in the Cormoran Strike series, and I don't want to spoil too much about this one, but especially because a lot of especially when it comes to the overall character arcs and narratives, a lot of it is really kind of tied over the span of how many books this been. But my sister read this before I did, and she's like, you need to read it so we can talk about it. And literally the last chapter left me speechless. It was what I think this series has been building for is especially the relationship between our main character Cormoran and Robin, and the will they won't they, and the last chapter left me speechless. I was blown away with what happened. But then again, also I found the crime that they were investigating to be really interesting. They're approached by this wealthy woman whose partner has kind of disappeared, and she is convinced that he is a man that has been found completely murdered, mutilated in a kind of gold vault, and it goes from there. That one was really fun as well, and it kept me really on my toes, and it was super suspenseful as well, but I just can't wait for the next book. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. I really want to read The Correspondent. This one just seems really interesting. I know this one is written through letters, so I'm really curious about this one. I've read Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society book, or whatever it's called, which is also written through letters, which I did enjoy. It's a different kind of format to be reading and to kind of digest some storytelling. I think it's a really interesting kind of format for that. So this is one I've heard really great things about, and it's fairly short too, so I'm not too worried about it, but I definitely want to get to it this year. If you hear rolling around, it is Willow. She's just doing a little jiggy jig on her back. But basically, question 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. For this one, I have 2. The first one is the newest installment in the Inspector Gamache series by Louise Penny. I'm so excited. And then the next one is obviously the next ACOTAR book, and this is going to be tricky because they come out a week apart, but the way I've pre-ordered these from Barnes & Noble, a lot of the time they don't get here the week of, or they come out later. But I'm kind of torn because I definitely want to dive into the Louise Penny book. I could read it within the week leading up to the Sarah J. Maas release, but I'm worried that if I'm a little bit delayed, I will be spoiled for ACOTAR online. So I'm kind of in a dilemma, but I'm sure I'll figure it out, or if I can I might just go get the ebook for Louise Penny's book. But yeah, I'm super excited for both of these. Louise Penny is my favorite author of all time. I love the Inspector Gamache series. It feels like home, that series, so I'm really excited for that one. Especially with crime novels, I don't like to know anything about the premise. I like to just dive in, so I have no idea what this one is about. And then obviously for the Sarah J. Maas ACOTAR book, I'm super excited. We still don't have a title yet, so I'm very curious when that will be announced, but definitely really excited for kind of part 1 and part 2 coming out October and I think January or February next year, so definitely excited. Question 5 is your biggest disappointment. This one would have to be one of my DNFs of this year, and it is Kindred. I was really excited about this one. It is totally right up my alley. During my undergrad, I double majored in biomedical engineering and anthropology, and this book talks about Neanderthals and what we've learned about them and what does the anthropological record kind of show us and what can we learn from that. And just the way it was written was not well done. Like I said, I have a degree in this, and I even struggled to read part of it or having to look up things. Its objective is to essentially be very digestible for a kind of Les Mis audience, but I didn't feel like that was the case. A lot of the footnotes too that are scattered throughout each of the chapters aren't actually really helpful or really add much to it. In this case, for example, did you know that calculus is like the debris found on like teeth and fossils? I did not know that, and that should have been a footnote, but it was something I had to look up myself. So I didn't feel like it was written in a really kind of friendly way, and even for someone who has a degree in this area. But it was just not well done, and I felt like it was just really repetitive, and it just kept going on and on and on. So it just wasn't well executed, so I was really disappointed by this one. So yeah, it was my biggest disappointment so far. Question 6 is your biggest surprise. This one, like I said, would have to be the Resistance of Witches as well. Like I said, I was like, this synopsis is too good to be true, but it just surprised me because it lived up to all of my expectations. So that one again has to be my biggest surprise as well. Question 7 is your favorite new author, debut or new to you. For this one, I would have to be Morgan Ryan, who wrote the A Resistance of Wishes book, which you've already heard me talk about, and then Alona Andrews, which is a husband and wife duo that wrote This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me. It was a book that was recommended by my husband to me, and it basically follows this real world person who wakes up in her favorite fantasy world, and she's trying to kind of save the people because she knows how it ends. I really liked it. It took me by surprise. I loved the world that she was in, the dilemma, everything about it, and so I really, really loved this one. So definitely those were my two kind of new to me authors that I really enjoyed. Question 8 is your newest fictional crush. I don't really crush or like fangirl over book characters, which is weird, but if I have to name one, it would be from the TV show The Gilded Age, and it would be Larry, so that's all I'm gonna say. Question 9 is your newest favorite character. This one would have to be Odessa from the Shield of Sparrows series by Devney Perry. This one, I read both books back to back, and I really loved it. I really love this character's kind of arc throughout the series. She really comes from where she's kind of left in the shadows. She's very much an afterthought and has learned to, or has been conditioned to, make herself kind of invisible and just hide in the shadows. And through the events of the book, she's kind of forced to kind of really stand her ground and make her presence known. And I really loved her character and her growth, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the third book. Question 10 is a book that made you cry. Oddly enough, this is The Curious History of Irish Dogs. And I think it was the kind of epilogue that talks about humans' connections to dogs and how we kind of watch them through all aspects of their life, and just talking about how, short of a time we kind of have with them. And that just really made me teary-eyed. I love dogs. I've grown up with dogs. They're my favorite animals, so that always just kind of hits me in the heartstrings. So that one, I had tears right down my face. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. This one would have to be my ACOTAR reread. I really got into audiobooks towards the end of 2025 when I was in my puzzling craze, and I've definitely continued that kind of in this year. Sorry, Willow is doing wall acrobatics right now. But basically, it was just like the series is very much a comfort read for me. I feel like I've had a lot of health issues this year, and so it's been like there's something kind of good about kind of escaping to this world. Also, like, you know what happens, but there's something comforting about the sense of found family, the characters, the world that I just really love. So it was fun to kind of revisit this series. So that's kind of really what made me happy. Question 12 is the most beautiful book you bought so far this year. This one would have to be The Foursome by Christina Baker Klein. I think this book is so beautiful. I love the flowering details. I think it's just really beautiful. Question 13 is the best book to film adaptation you've seen this year. I don't think I've actually seen any adaptations this year, which is crazy. And question 14 is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? First up, I have The House Saphir by Marissa Meyer. I have The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I have When Women Were Dragons, and then also The Last Wish of Bristol Keats as well, so by Mary E. Pearson. So these are the ones that are like I want to prioritize kind of going into the last half of this year. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your highlights and disappointments were of your reading year so far. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.